Hi, this is going to be a video on how to create an Algol talisman. And in this video, I'm going to have an electional chart made up of a specific time that you could create an Algol talisman during. And this electional chart is for Vancouver, Canada. So with that being said, if you live in certain other places, if you live in other places in the world, that's going to change things because depending on the area that you live in, the chart is going to be different. Even if you do the ritual at the exact same time, you know, I don't mean human time like 5 a.m. or stuff like that. I mean the exact same time, like the exact same moment in linear time, right? Regardless of time differences or time zones or stuff like that. If time zones didn't exist, everyone was on the same clock, right? That's what I mean. If you did them at the exact same time, uh, one person in one location, if they're creating a talisman for it and it's been constructed properly, the election, the chart, to create it like it has been for this point in time in Vancouver, a person in another place like Calgary or Ottawa or somewhere, right, or China, God knows where, right? It wouldn't serve as an Algol talisman then, even if it were created at the same time on some world standard time, right? So if you live in somewhere else other than Vancouver, Canada, you're gonna have to make sure that you're gonna have to change the election so that things are so that it's more so that actually works, right? Otherwise, you could create a talisman that if you live in another time zone, that actually is bad. So don't do it if you don't. And if you live in another place, besides Vancouver, that's a different time zone and different geography, right? Then you're going to want to take this to an astrologer and have them change it around for you. Or if you know astrology well enough, perhaps you can change it for yourself. You want to essentially have Algol culminating on the MC. And yeah, if you can change it around so it does that, and so also that the moon is built before Algol, then it'll work. But if it's past Algol, then it won't work. And if Algol needs to be culminating on the MC. Anyway, so my advice would be use this if you live in Vancouver. And if you don't, then better get an astrologer to do it. Because if you live somewhere else other than Vancouver, then what I would suggest is you can contact me in my email, and I offer these services as well. I've been an astrologer for nearly 15 years now. I've read over 200 books on the subject. I've read somewhere around 100 books on traditional astrology, which would be astrology from the Hellenistic era, which was around 2,000 years ago. And then I've read, and then part of that also would be books from the medieval or Renaissance era, which would be around the medieval era, somewhere around 1,000 years ago, and the Arabic era and all that, and the Renaissance era and all that stuff. I've read around 100 books from those eras, and I've read quite a few books on Vedic astrology as well, which is Indian or Hindu astrology. I've read tons of books on modern astrology as well. I've read basically quite a few books on most every single type of astrology. Chinese astrology is really the only one that I'm not really super well versed in, although I've read several books on that. I've read probably 10 books or 15 books on Chinese astrology, so I'm not exactly knowledgeable on it. Just I wouldn't call myself an expert like I am in other fields of astrology. So yeah, if you live somewhere else and you want to create an Algol talisman or a talisman of any other fixed star or planet, then you can contact me in my email, and we can do that. I can create that chart for you. Generally, with the stars, you may get 1 or 2 good elections a year, maybe, and so really good ones anyway. And you get several beyond that are passable. They're decent during the year, but they're not really good either. So yeah, I can definitely do that. And yeah, if you're looking to create fixed star talismans or planetary talismans, I've studied the tradition for a long time now, and yeah, and I'm pretty good at lectional astrologer. I'm a pretty good astrologer in general, actually. So yeah, if you're looking for that and you live somewhere other than Vancouver, then you may want to contact me about that, or another astrologer that you trust. Anyway, but yeah, for people in Vancouver, um, this is a chart. This is an election to create an Algol talisman, um, and it's from 5:25 a.m. to 5:40 a.m. on Tuesday morning in Vancouver, Canada. Um, and what you're going to want to do to create this talisman is you're going to want to first off have a material to create it out of. You're going to want to the best would be crystal or metal of some sort. Copper would work well because it's Algol situated in the sign of Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, and its exaltation ruler is the moon. So silver will work well as well. Copper, silver best, I'd say. Yeah, and other metals will work too, but silver or copper would be best. And alloy would work too. Yeah, yeah. And as far as crystals go, diamond would work best. But diamond, they're expensive, right? And they're pretty, they're hard to engrave, right? Because they're so hard, right? And so, crystal would work well. Quartz crystal, like this. That'd work well. Yeah, or like that. Yeah. Yeah, quartz crystal, or like this. Yeah. Some of these are talismans of different planets or stars, but I'm just giving you an idea of materials that you can use, right? Yeah. Bloodstone would work. A lot of crystals would work, actually. You'd want it to correspond somewhat to Algol, which would be more of a protective type energy. So black tourmaline would work well. Cat's eye would work well. Tiger's eye, stuff like that. Smoky quartz would work well. Grounding stones, tigers, iron, stuff like that would work well. Garnet, yeah, yeah. Anyway, the best way to create the talisman is to buy an engraving device. So what I use personally, I use a Dremel engraver, and that costs like $30. I ordered it off of Amazon, and it uses a tungsten tip, which is has a hardness that's quite high. It's like 8.5 or 8 or something out of 10, which allows it to pretty easily engrave most materials. Yeah, and so essentially what's done is during the window of the election, it's about a 15-minute window, like I said, 8:20 or no, 5:25 to 5:40 a.m. And I'll put the time window in the description as well. Um, uh, in Vancouver, Canada, and during this window of time, during this 15-minute window, you take your crystal or your piece of metal, and then you use your engraving tool, and you can use a Dremel engraver, and you can find those at various hardware stores, and or you can use some other engraving tool. There are like engraving pens and stuff like that. Some of them are battery operated, some of them, that you can use. You can use various other tools that engrave things onto, hard materials, right? But I find the Dremel engraver, it's pretty cheap, and it works well. You just plug it in and you go, right? And yeah, so anyway, yeah, you take your crystal, you take your metal, whatever you're making talismans out of, and you can make a few talismans during that window, actually, if you want. That way you can give some to your friends and or loved ones and stuff like that, right? And can have a few on hand too if you want. So yeah, you take your crystal or your metal during that time, during that 15-minute window, and you engrave Algol's seal, his sigils, onto the material. You engrave at least one of his sigils onto the material during that window of time. And I'm going to write down both symbols, both of his sigils. And a sigil is essentially a signature of a spiritual entity. A lot of company logos actually are sigils, which is kind of funny too in itself. Which it's kind of makes sense because a lot of these companies, they're called entities, they're called corporate entities, because they actually have the same status as people in the eyes of the law, right? So actually, these corporate entities, they have even more rights than people do in the eyes of the law, actually. So it's like, so what's the difference between them and some spiritual force? I don't know. They're the same, Maybe the companies just become so big and there's so many people under it, so many people worshiping it, that just kind of it's become kind of an entity in itself. Maybe tomorrow people will be praying to Gucci. I guess people are praying to Gucci as it is. I don't know. Praying to Dolce Gabbana or Dolce Banana. I don't know what the fuck they're called. I still don't know. I didn't know my last video that I mentioned them. I still don't fucking know what they're called. I don't really give a fuck, But whatever these companies are called, I'm pretty sure there are people that worship these days. So, So I don't know what makes them that different from these gods and stuff. I don't know. Well, I think the gods that I work with, they're more advanced than these companies, but that's my point of view. But I'm sure there's some people that say Louis Vuitton or whatever the fuck is maybe the shit or the bee's knees or something, or the greatest symbol of status and advancement as an entity. I don't know. There's definitely people that worship those brands, but anyway, enough of my tangents. Jeez Louise. Anyway, and corporations and all that jazz. Jesus, people in their worship of these crazy fucking brand names and stuff like that. Whatever. I think it's silly, but whatever. Just going off a bit of a tangent there. Anyway, what you want to do is you want to, during the time window, the 15-minute window, you take your crystal or your metal and you use your engraving tool to engrave at least one of the two sigils of Algol. And there's two sigils that I'll write down on a piece of paper. I'll then include that in a link that's going to be in the description of this video. And or I'll probably write it down right here actually, and show you guys so you know what it looks like, right? And that way you'll see it in the video too. And yeah, I'll do that. And just take me a second, and then you write it down, its name. But ideally on the talismans, you want to write down both sigils and its name, ideally, and you're going to be good to go. But if you have its name and one of its sigils, or even at least one of its sigils, you need at least one of its sigils on it for it to work most effectively, right? You need at least one. But preferably you want to have both, and you want to have its name on it as well in English, right? Or in whatever language you use. I don't know. If you have another language that you prefer to use, then you probably want to look up its name in that language, right? If you want to use that language to write down. Or you could just write down the English version of it, right? And you'll be fine. So yeah, so you're going to want to write down the sigils and its name on the talisman, on the material that you're making the talisman out of at the time. And once you do that inside the 15-minute window of the election, which is from 5:25 a.m. to 5:40 a.m. And if you do that, then once you're done the engraving part of the talismans, you want to start burning some incense. And what I do is I use charcoals. They're little round, they're charcoal discs essentially. They're about roughly this size. The size of about a loonie, I guess, in width. Maybe a bit thicker or a bit larger than a loonie. And you can find these at various metaphysical shops. There's Three Kings brands, and there's several brands that you can buy. And what I do is I put it on like a a metal candle holder or something like that, and then I something that can absorb the heat and all that stuff, right? Without cracking, because those little charcoals, they get really hot, right? So you want to put on something on the surface that can withstand the heat, right? And then you light it with a match, or what's it called, or a lighter, right? And then you'll start you'll ignite. You'll start to get red, right, and kind of and start to burn. And then you put the and then you use an incense. And for Algol, mugwort is one of the good incenses that you can use for them. Let's see here. There's official ones that you can use. They're good for sure. Um, Mugwort, yeah, mugwort's really good. And then there's also frankincense and myrrh. Those are good ones generally for creating talismans as well. For Algol, maybe dragon's blood too will work. You know, and copal, white copal will work well. Yeah, benzoin and Sumatra will work well. Yeah, uh, yeah, those work well. Amber will work well. Mugwort, probably the best though. But yeah, if you can't find that, frankincense, myrrh, copal, dragon's blood, benzoin and Sumatra, yeah, those will work well. Maybe not amber. Maybe scratch that. Amber, yeah, pinch will work okay. Amber resin, yeah. But the other ones are probably better, I'd say, intuitively. So once the talismans are the seals, and the name is inscribed in this talisman, at least one seal has to be of the Algol has to be inscribed in the talisman during this time. And once that's done, you burn the incense, and you let the incense, the smoke come up, and then you put the talisman, um, over the smoke. So the smoke's coming up like this way, right? And you place the talisman up here over the incense that's being burned, and then the smoke will envelop the crystal or the piece of metal, right? And then you turn the talisman, you turn the whatever you're using as your talisman, right? And this can even be a piece of paper. You can print off a piece of paper with the sigils and the name of the star, and it'll be a weaker talisman, right? But it'll still work. It'll still help you start a relationship with them. You know? It won't be as long lasting. It'll maybe last like a couple of years, maybe. But it'll start a relationship with you and him. It'll still give you some benefit, if you put the work in, right? But yeah, it's better metal or crystal, obviously. And if you're in a pinch, a stone will work too. But crystal or metal is better than stone. A stone is better than paper anyway. So it's just something to keep in mind, right? Wood will work. Okay, I guess it would work better than paper. Probably, I don't know, but probably maybe roughly about as good as stone. Maybe it depends on the quality of the wood and all that, and the quality of the piece, right? If it's a good quality piece, then it could work well, right? Yeah. But best, like ideal, would be metal or crystal. So you hold the crystal up once it's engraved, once the engraving of the seal is in there, and the name in both seals, like I said, is best. But at least one seal, and it'll work, right? Because some objects are really small, right? So you can only really put one seal on it, right? In that case, then one seal will work. And, even bigger pieces in one seal will work. It's just better to have the name and both seals on it, ideally, right? But yeah, once you have that inscribed, you place it over the smoke, and let the smoke will envelop the material, the crystal or the piece of metal that you use to create your Algol talismans. And And then you turn the crystal, if you had it this way at first, you let smoke envelop it, the smoke will kind of rise up this way, and then you'll go around it and like kind of envelop it as it goes up. And then you turn it around that way the smoke, hits this portion too. It's important that you make sure that the smoke hits hits all portions of the material that you're using, the crystal or the piece of metal. That way it's symbolic, It's basically the smoke essentially acts as a transfer medium to basically during that time when it's lit at that time, the smoke from those incense, it allows it represents because it envelops the crystal or the metal, it represents the it represents a transmission medium of the it represents basically a cocoon or a womb, like a mother's womb, right? I can't really say it right now. Maybe I need to drink some more water. But essentially, it represents the incense smoke. Essentially, represents spiritual forces making their way into the crystal or the material or the metal, right, or the stone or whatever it is you're using, right? And so the smoke essentially transfers during that specific time the essence of the spirit of the star or the planet into that medium, into that object, right? It essentially like you could call it kind of a lubricant, I guess, a spiritual lubricant, right? As it allows, for transfer of energies and stuff like that, right? And, yeah. So yeah, you do that, and you want to start that roughly, before the time that the election ends, within the 15-minute window. You want to start placing the talismans um, over the smoke, within that time, by the end of it. And you do that with all the talismans that you created, and you just make enough so that you can, still start, lighting the incense and all that, before the election is over, because you want to place them over the smoke before they, before the election is, too far gone. You want it within, that 15-minute window that I said previously, 5:25 a.m. to 5:40 a.m. That's 5:40 a.m. that ends, right? So within that time, you want to have, start having start to, place the talismans that you've created over the incense smoke, right? By that point. So you just make enough that you can do that within that window, right? It's a decent idea to, have a few minutes left over so that you can, so don't make too many of them, right? So that you can kind of, because it's your first time making them, right? So you might misjudge the timing and stuff like that. So just so everything's within the window, which will make the talismans more effective, it'll be better. And if you make less because of that, then the talismans at least will be more effective because they're in the window, right? Even though there are less of them, right? So better to have less talismans there that you create during the window. They're more effective. The more talismans, they're less effective, right? So, yeah. Beyond that, oh yeah, afterwards, after you're done, and you want to have you want to envelop the talismans in the incense smoke for around 30 seconds each, roughly. Make sure the whole surface area of the object is covered, and with the smoke, and the smoke touches every area of the talisman, and you're good to go. Roughly 30 seconds, for standard size objects. Yeah, Maybe if it's a bit bigger than something, you want to do it maybe a bit longer than 30 seconds. The standard size object is probably around 30 seconds. Like something like this, about 30 seconds, I'd say. Something bigger, maybe a minute, or something like that, or a bit longer, maybe 45 seconds. Just make sure everything's covered. The smoke touches every part of the object, and you're good, generally. And yeah, roughly 30 to 45 seconds each, depending on the size and the object. And then once you're done that, and each talisman that you put over the incense smoke that you're creating, you ask Algol to enter this talisman. Each one, you do it when you're creating them, and then once you're done that, once you're done placing them, once you're done engraving them, once you're done enveloping them in the smoke, once you're done asking the spirit of Algol to enter these talismans, each of them that you've engraved and enveloped in the smoke, you ask the spirit of Algol to enter it. And then once you're done that, you meditate for about 10 minutes or so, and ask Algol to help you, and ask him to give you his protection or whatever it is, the things that you want for him. Like I said, he gives protection. In the last video I did on this, I talked about the things that he does for you. So you can ask him for some of these things or all of them or whatever. And you do this, maybe do this. You can do this before your meditation or after your meditation. What's important is that you start. You get the engraving done. You get the incense. Enveloping of the talismans done, and you get that done, and you ask the spirit of Algol to enter the talismans and put in the window, and then a little bit outside the window you can start the meditations, right? That's fine. A little bit past the window, but not too far past it. Maybe like start the meditation by around before 6 a.m. I'd say. Yeah, start before 6 a.m. and you'll be good to go. And you can ask for what you want and things that you want. Like I said, the significations of it, what it does for you, you can find them in the previous video. So yeah, he'll help with protection. He'll help you be a better person. He'll help you be more confident. He'll help you do what's right. If someone's doing wrong, then he'll help you to call them out on that, and to protect you, and to protect you from people who don't really have your best interests at heart and may have selfish intentions for you. He'll protect you against that stuff. And but you have to put the time in and put the effort into being a better person too, right? Because he expects you to be a better person. He expects all of us to be. He's an archangel of judgment, so he just that's how he is. So yeah. If you're interested in creating one of these talismans, then yeah, I told you how to do it, and yeah, that's really all there is. And after you created it, you can work with it by meditating with it, and you can hold it in your hand. You can and communicate with it. You can ask, you can hold the crystal or the metal or whatever you created the talisman of in your hand, and or put it on your body, and ask it to help you with this or that, or to say, hey, so and so, hey, Algol, can we be friends? Something like that, right? Just treat it with respect, treat him with respect, and he'll try to be a decent person, and try to be a better person. He'll do good for you. He'll have you back. And, yeah. So oh yeah, his sigil. I'll draw that right now, actually. Oh, geez Louise. And yeah, don't fucking do it at a different time. Don't create a talisman of a star or planet at a different fucking time than the one I'm specifying for Algol. If you're going to create an Algol talisman, do it at this time. Or if you understand astrology, if you understand really well, like traditional astrology, like medieval and Renaissance era and Hellenistic era astrology, and you want to make one of your own, still you have to study like astrological magic sources on how to create talismans. It's not as simple. You're going to need to study first. Okay. So don't say, oh, it's I woke up an hour late. I'm going to create a talisman now. Don't do that. You have to create it at this time window. Otherwise, it could not work or could have negative effects. So it's important that you create it at the right time. Yeah. And if you miss the window, and if you want to create an Algol talisman or a talisman of another star, right? And but you don't know how, and you haven't done the research on how to do those, then yeah, contact me in my email, and I can create another window for you of time that you could create a talisman during. But like I said, if you're gonna create this Algol talisman, you have to create it during this window. Otherwise, yeah, if you try to create it an hour late or an hour early or something like that, that's not good. Don't do that. And if you miss the window for whatever reason, then and you want to create a talisman anyway, then just contact me, and I can do a new electional chart. I can find one so that you could create an Algol talisman at another time where it will actually be effective and it will help you rather than hurt you, right? Because if you create something for this, like an astrology talisman, a star talisman or a planetary talisman at the wrong time, and you don't know what you're doing, with the timing of the creation anyway, because the other steps are pretty simple. You inscribe a seal on a piece of on a material of some sort during a specific window of time, and place it under the incense smoke and then meditate, right? And ask the spirit of the star planet to enter it, right? It's pretty simple, but it's not simple if you have to create a chart yourself. If you have to create a window of time yourself to do it. It's simple since I'm giving you the window of time to do it during. But if it's not simple if you have to figure that out yourself. So if you miss the window for whatever reason, or you're gonna miss it or whatever, and you still want to create an Algol talisman, then just email me and we can yeah, I offer that service as well. I could create one for you for like $30. It doesn't take me too much long. It doesn't take me that long to find a window of time for it, and I'm an experienced astrologer, like I said, so I've been practicing it for nearly 15 years now, so I understand the technicalities of it, so I can do that pretty easily. But yeah, $30 isn't that much compared to the negative effects potentially creating a talisman at a wrong time. So yeah, if you missed the window for whatever reason and you want a new one, then just contact me, and yeah. But yeah, like I said, whatever the fuck you do, don't, if you're an hour late or an hour early or something, or half an hour, whatever, even, if you can't miss that, if you can't get in that fucking window, 15 minutes, then don't do it. And like I said, create less talismans your first time, because you don't know really how long it'll take you to inscribe and to put under the incense smoke and stuff like that. So yeah. Maybe create 2 to start with or something, yeah, or 3 maybe at most. That way you get them done pretty quick and do the incense smoke and start your meditation, and anyway, I'll just write down these seals here quickly. They're pretty simple to draw. Like they're not. It's not Picasso or Leonardo da Vinci type complexity. Thank God. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. Here we go. Um, these are his two sigils, right here and right here. They're pretty simple, as I said. And there's his name below that. You engrave at least one of those sigils onto the talisman during the window. And preferably you want to engrave both sigils and the name. But, next best would be, one of the sigils in the name. Next best would be, at least one of the sigils, right? But anyway, yeah. Um, and then once you've created it, holding it regularly and having it around you is good. You can have one in your pocket or something like that, right? Hold it, carry it, and yeah, having it around you in your vicinity will be good. Yeah. So anyway, that's the end of the video, and if anyone actually creates a Algol talisman, then hope you enjoy it, and yeah, so hopefully it's the start of something beautiful and something that helps you evolve and something helps you become a better person, helps you achieve your endeavors and all that, and offers you protection and guidance and all that, which are things that's done for me. So yeah, um, yeah, that's it. Have a good day.